Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, pretty much every single Bitcoin indicator is calling for a major rally. But that's not the full story. You see, this one unknown, mysterious, little talked about indicator that you've probably never even heard of, the RSI, it's overbought. Quite overbought, actually. So, in today's video, we're going to strive to answer the question, will an overbought RSI result in a downtrend rather than a major breakout on our favorite cryptocurrency? We're going to be discussing that in today's video because there's quite a bit more going into this market right now than it may seem on the surface. So, if you guys do enjoy today's video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps out the channel when you do that, and I wouldn't want you to miss any of the videos. But without much further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Before we get started, I do first want to mention that the Coffee and Crypto live stream over in the first cohort went very well today. In fact, we were live streaming at this point right here. We're down on the minute chart, and a lot of people in the chat that kind of wanted to go into a long position said, hang on, hold off, don't enter just yet. When you know, you'll know. When the breakout comes, you'll know. You won't even have a doubt in your mind. Don't enter the trade just yet. Be careful of entering the trade just yet, rather. And because I said that, I think a lot of people that were going to go into long positions here didn't. And then this right here, this big pullback that I'm seeing on the minute chart where Bitcoin fell $200, that would have liquidated pretty much any scalp trade. So luckily enough, we were able to live stream that, and we had a lot of fun over there. We had a lot of things were taught. If you guys want access to those Coffee and Crypto morning live streams every single weekday morning, the link to join the first cohort is down below. I don't know what you're waiting for. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, guys, one of the things I also want to mention is that during the first cohort live stream, Bitcoin quite obviously rejected around $9,200. Bitcoin rallied up to it. We rejected. We fell pretty hard. This is not a small move. This is the minute chart, but Bitcoin fell 2%. That's nothing to not necessarily write home about. What? That's definitely not insignificant. That's still a mouthful, but a better way to say that. Point I'm trying to make here is that Bitcoin is not as bullish as a lot of people are making it out to be. It is bullish, don't get me wrong, but the fact of the matter is Bitcoin is looking at a very overbought RSI. Now look, yes, I'm aware Bitcoin is above the 20 exponential moving average. Yes, I'm aware Bitcoin is above the 200 simple moving average. Yes, I'm aware Bitcoin is having a bullish MACD cross on the daily chart and also on the weekly chart. Both of those things are happening together. Bitcoin just got support on the 200 weekly. I am aware of all of that. I'm even aware that volume is looking relatively healthy and starting to pick up over the last 2 or 3 days. I'm also aware that if Bitcoin closes up here around $9,200 a day, that this will be a 3 white soldiers pattern. I, believe it or not, am aware of all of that because after all, it is my job to be aware of those things. I know. Look, I am fully aware that Bitcoin looks very bullish right now on a lot of different fronts, but I pose you the question, what happens when Bitcoin starts a rally and the minute it starts that rally, we're already at 70 on the RSI? Let me answer that question for you. Let's look at the history on Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was up here around $9,000 or so, we got above a bunch of important moving averages up here. As you will see, we were above every single one of them except the 100. Right now, Bitcoin needs to get above the 200. Back here, Bitcoin was below the 100, above the 200. It's a weird time, I admit. Bitcoin got squeezed in here, and we tried to start a rally. We failed. Why did we fail? Well, guess what? The RSI was very, very high. We tried to start a rally back over here. Guess what? The RSI, it was sitting at 70. We tried to continue the rally up here. The RSI was sitting at 80. Bitcoin wanted to rally back here in May, and it couldn't because the RSI was sitting in overbought territory. Same thing here. We either traded very, very gradually and slowly to the upside, or we traded sideways fully. Now, let's compare apples to apples. What happens when Bitcoin has overbought RSI in a downtrend like we are in right now? When Bitcoin tried to start a rally back in July of 18, Bitcoin did not manage to do it because guess what? That RSI was overbought. Same thing back over here in April of 18. Bitcoin tried to start an uptrend. Couldn't happen. RSI was overbought. Guys, RSI is very important. And by the way, yes, I know what some of you are saying, but Jeb, what about the end of 2017 when Bitcoin was sitting up here at 20 grand and the RSI was overbought and we stayed in overbought territory for months? What about that, Jeb? Well, I'd throw the question back to you, viewer. What about the weekly chart when we saw that Bitcoin had been in a rally and an uptrend and a bull market for 2 years? Unless my memory fails me, we have not been in an uptrend for 2 years. We've been in an uptrend for a month. So it's not like we can just write off the RSI because this time we don't have the entire mainstream media behind us. Oh, and by the way, Bitcoin still rejected at $20,000. The RSI is not something to ignore. Yes, I am feeling bullish on Bitcoin. Yes, I do want to see a rally start. Yes, I do think that we're moving into a season of bullishness. And yes, I do believe that more bullish price action, new local highs, maybe even a new yearly high, a new high above 14,000. Yes, I believe all of that can happen this year, and I believe a lot of it's possible. And I do also think that there's a halfway decent chance that we go back to all-time high this year rather than 2021. But it is simply irresponsible of me not want to remind you guys of that RSI. We're already sitting up here at 65. If Bitcoin rallies much farther above $9,200, which $9,250, $9,300, that's around where my entry position is. If Bitcoin rallies up there, yes, it has a MACD behind it. Yes, it's above all the moving average. Yes, 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 yes. Guess what? If Bitcoin's overbought and the bulls are exhausted, it doesn't matter what the technicals say, because if there's no buying pressure, how's the market going to move to the upside? It's not. This is something we were talking about in the first cohort live stream this morning, guys. When Bitcoin had this correction down here, I'm just going to show you what I told them in the first cohort. When Bitcoin had this correction down here, we had an uptrend drawn right here. Let's try and draw that a little bit better. There we go. And we had an uptrend drawn right here. The reason that Bitcoin fell so quickly here is because a lot of people entered long positions up here when they shouldn't have, because guess what? Down here on the minute chart, the 5-minute chart, the 15-minute chart, all those charts, RSI was overbought. They entered long positions up here that they shouldn't have entered, and then when Bitcoin started to fall, it fell below the 20-minute exponential moving average, and we crashed because people that were scalping, they saw that the long that they had just entered was now losing money. They started getting liquidated and they started getting stopped out. That is something that can happen on the minute chart, but it can also happen on the daily chart, guys. If Bitcoin starts to reject here, Bitcoin could very easily turn what we're looking at now, which looks very bullish, into something very bearish. Because let me tell you something, guys, there's a lot of people with a lot of money riding on Bitcoin having a breakout right now. Everybody's saying, hey, look, a big major bullish breakout is coming. Bitcoin's above the 200 daily simple moving average. We're going to the moon. What happened the last time Bitcoin got above the 200 moving average? Did Bitcoin start a bull market that time? No. Now, guys, don't confuse what I'm saying here. I am not saying that Bitcoin is going to crash. I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to just lose all of the gains we made over the last month. I'm not saying that a new rally isn't coming. I think it is. The technicals are lining up in a big way. It's almost impossible for Bitcoin to just ignore a weekly MACD chart movement. Those bullish crosses are definitely significant. But weekly chart and daily chart are different, and there are things that can happen on the daily chart that won't even show up on the weekly chart. And it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, it might not be the next day that Bitcoin has a breakout, because today, tomorrow, the next day, sometime this week, Bitcoin might start actually responding to that overbought RSI. To finish my case, I want to remind you how the RSI works. When Bitcoin trades sideways, the RSI will automatically result to 50. It's an oscillator. It oscillates around the 50 level on the RSI. If Bitcoin trades sideways here for 2 weeks, guess what's going to happen? That RSI is going to start moving to the downside. It's going to start correcting down to the 50 level. Bitcoin doesn't need to fall very far. I just don't want to see Bitcoin try and stage a major breakout when the RSI is already above 70. If Bitcoin got up here around $93 or $9,400 up here, which would be confirmation of a bullish breakout, and it's already at 70 or 80 on the RSI, how far is it going to run? I want to see a breakout rally to like $10,000 or $11,000, but how are we going to manage to do that when the RSI is overbought? And furthermore, if we do it despite the overbought RSI, imagine the correction that's going to come when the RSI is at 85. I tell you what happens then. Bitcoin has a major breakout. We see the RSI is overbought. We get up here to 11 grand. And then with that RSI being at 85, everybody's in long positions. We fall like a rock because that RSI is stupidly high. There's no buying pressure because everybody's exhausted themselves. The bulls need a break here. I am looking for a bullish breakout on Bitcoin, but I want to see the RSI reset. I want to see the bulls have more exuberance, because if they were going to break out, I would have expected that breakout to come already. If it was going to be a healthy breakout, the minute we got above the 200, I would have expected to see Bitcoin blast off. Didn't happen. That's not the end of the world, but it does indicate to me that we need to be a little more careful. Let's give it a few days. Guys, like I was saying in the first cohort with scalping, the same thing is true on the daily chart. When you know, I've been working in these markets for a long time. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of wisdom around markets, and I know how these things work. When you know, and I don't know that that breakout is coming yet. When I do, I'll tell you. It's going to take a little bit more time. We're close. Don't get me wrong. We're close. We're not there yet. Now, I'm not saying that Bitcoin just blasts off like a rocket ship to miss the boat and not even trade it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be careful, because that RSI, if we're not careful, is going to come back to bite us. I can almost guarantee you that. But anyway, guys, I think I have made my point for today. But before I go, there is one thing that I want to talk about, and that would be something that I heard at church on Sunday, actually. This was originally going to go at the end of yesterday's video, but we talked about Kobe instead. Rest in peace. I want to be very brief on this, but something that's been pulling at my heart quite a bit lately, and it's something that our pastor talked about. He talked about he was down in Haiti, and there was a missionary school. And he was in this missionary school that our church has partnered with, and he showed this picture on screen. It was this beautiful picture. There were 200 kids, 200 Haitian kids down there, and the only reason they had shirts on their backs and food in their bellies is because of that missions church. They wouldn't have had any of that without that mission. And in the back of the picture, he zoomed in, and he saw these kids in the door, like it was just an open door to the street, and there were these kids. One of them only had a shirt on, and one of them was like peeking in, trying to see what was going on inside this church. And he said, what's up with those kids? And the missionary running the church said, well, they want to know what's going on here. They're interested. They want to know how these kids have clothes and food. And that really hurt our pastor because he's like, well, what does it take? Bring them in, give them clothes, give them food. I mean, what are you waiting for? And the missionary said, well, we would love to, but it's a matter of money. We can't afford it. We don't have the money to do it. So our pastor asked the missionary, well, how much money does it take to bring in one kid? And the missionary said it's about $35 a month. And then so our pastor said to the missionary, okay, well, in that case, if I gave you $35, would you let him come in? And the missionary said, yes, of course. We just can't afford it if we don't have the money. And he said, here's the money. In came the kid. And that, I teared up at that. I'm a man. I don't care. That hurt. That means that there are people out there that $35 a month would make the difference between life and death for them. I mean, some of those kids, they didn't have food. I mean, one of them had literally just a shirt on. They didn't even have pants. And by the way, again, I'm not getting up on a soapbox. I'm not telling anyone how to live their life. This is just something I've been thinking about, so I want to throw it here at the end of the video because it kind of goes back to what I was saying in yesterday's video about the money that we're making. What are we using it for, right? Are we going to just sit here on a stack of cash and die rich and then not do anything with it and not make any memories? Furthermore, are we going to sit here on a bunch of money that we make in cryptocurrency? Because don't get me wrong, guys, let me show you something. If you had made a halfway decent trade here, you could have made a 20% return, call 25x leverage on that. That's a 500x return. That is a lot of money. I don't care how much you were trading with. There are a lot of us in cryptocurrency that are very wealthy, and it really made me wonder, well, how much money would it take to save everyone from poverty? Interesting question, right? Well, I ran the numbers. Let's say there's 1 billion people in the world that are in need, and $35 a month is what it would take to make sure they're fed and clothed. Massively oversimplified, I understand that. There's a lot more that goes into it than two numbers. I get that. But for the sake of argument, let's multiply 1 billion people, $35 a month. That's $35 billion a month. Multiply that by 12 months in a year. That's $420 billion a year to make sure that people have clothes on their back and food in their bellies. Now, by the way, I am not a socialist. I'm not the kind of person who says, give me your money and we'll go ahead and redistribute it. That's not what I'm saying. But it does make me wonder when the country that I live in takes in $2.5 trillion a year in income from taxes, and relatively speaking, it would only take $400 or $500 billion a year to make sure everybody has clothes and food and water. It's not the government's job. It's our job. If you guys are making a lot of money in cryptocurrency, think about it. Think about what you're doing with that money. I'm not telling you how to live your life. No means. There's no judgment coming from me. Don't think that that's what I'm doing. But I know that I personally need to start spending more of my money in helping people because there's a lot of people out there that need it, and they don't need much, but they do need something. So guys, that's what I've been thinking about lately. Hopefully you guys will think about it also. I think it's a great thing for us to do, to use the money that we're making rather than buying a fancy car, to maybe use it to help people who are in our immediate family, in our community, whatever it is. And I think what I just said is a good message, but the fact of the matter is actions speak louder than words. So that's what I'm going to try and do this year, is spend a lot more time working on charitable organizations and working on building a charitable organization later on this year after I get my business stuff figured out. And I want you guys to be along for the ride for that. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming over the next couple of years, and I want you guys to be a part of it. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're about to hit 31K subs, which is ridiculous. But anyway, guys, that is going to have to wrap it up for today's video. Tell me what you thought of that overbought RSI and the technical analysis in the comment section down below. But anyway, guys, that is going to have to wrap it up for this video. But before I go, I do first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.